Hello, everyone. Welcome to DEI, a podcast dedicated to discussing and raising awareness on the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion. My name is Kara Sien, and we are thrilled today to have Angela Udongwo with us. A quick snapshot of Angela. She is the CEO and co-founder of InnoHealth Diagnostics, which developed a microchip diagnostic for schistosomiasis. She won first place prizes at Emory's Entrepreneurship Summit, Sling Health Demo Day, and won the 2019 Inventor Prize, a nationally televised competition. Angela is currently working as the president of Aspiring Physician Executives working to teach physicians to interpret x-rays of Black patients with braids, locks, and twists. Angela, to say you're a pioneer and trailblazer would be an understatement. So excited to have you on DEI's interview. Can you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself, how you ventured into the medical field?
Yeah, well, thank you for that. That was so well said and well well structured. Um, so yeah, thanks for having me. Happy to be here. Uh, to answer your question, how I got into the medical field. So I am of Nigerian heritage, and early on, we were taught hard work and like the value of education. And so really like I was kind of they push all their kids. This is all Nigerians and really a lot of different cultures push their kids into the three different careers, and it's either a lawyer, an engineer, a doctor, and then some people say the fourth one is just a disgrace. And so there was like the four like ways to be an adult. And growing up, I always like kind of resented it because I was like, I want to be more of a creative person. Like I want to just like I was big on Sims, and so I just loved like creating things. And so I didn't. I was like, when I saw being a doctor, which is like what kind of was like. My mom was in healthcare, so it kind of was in my radar. I saw that as just being too like too strict and too like not able to innovate, not able to do cool things as it comes up. But when I got into undergrad, I went to Florida State University and I got into a club called the Business of Medicine. And there was a sponsor that he was a surgeon and he also had a business. And it just kind of opened my eyes to like, oh, okay, so you can be a doctor and do something else. Like it's not just be a doctor and then you do the 9 to 5 or the first surgeon, like 6 a.m. to however long they're in surgery. You can actually do other things too in your career. So that kind of brightened my eyes. And then at Florida State, there's a big entrepreneurship push. They have a school of entrepreneurship, and they're like it's planted in different departments, including School of Medicine. And so I had a mentor there who was a physician by practice, but he didn't actually work as a physician. He went straight to like the Bay, Silicon Valley, did like a tech thing, then came to Florida and does like more entrepreneurial research stuff. And so he kind of also opened my eyes into like another way to be a physician. And it just kind of got really cool to me. And I always wanted to like work in Nigeria to some capacity. And we saw that one of the problems in Nigeria was infectious diseases. That's one of the number one causes of mortality. And I just realized that I can combine my studies in medicine and entrepreneurship and public health eventually to actually do something that I thought was really cool. So that kind of solidified my desire to be in medicine because there's just so much to do there. And there's so many different ways to make an impact along with clinical care. And so, yeah, that's kind of how I get started in, or that's how I solidified my role in medicine.
That's so cool. And as you mentioned, like your Nigerian identity, how do you think that like as a female and as a Nigerian, like how has like that intersection or like who you are really shaped your research and your studies?
Yeah, I think that being in a Nigerian culture, especially being a female, holds a lot of expectations. For example, being a first daughter in a family, you're called something called Ada, and that's like you're like the first daughter, like you're like the second mother, like your mom's working, you're like have responsibilities that not even really like are vocalized, but just expected. And so I've kind of like had these expectations already like on me, and like I said, I resented it at first, but you kind of just kind of grow into knowing that you can make a big impact and like you're kind of expected to make a big impact. So I kind of felt not only expectations, but also like what's the word? Like uh responsibility to use the resources that I have here, whether it be in Florida State or whatever institution I'm in or wherever I am at, to then see like an opportunity somewhere else that can be better and hopefully like push the needle and make a change in whatever aspect I'm working in. So yeah, I think this the being Nigerian, the hardworking, being instilled in me, and then being a woman in the Nigerian culture, having those expectations, kind of pushed me in that direction.
Right. That all comes together.
Yeah.
Can you tell us more about like your research in addressing braids, twists, and locks as like hair artifacts in radiological imaging? And well, can you explain like what artifact means in medical imaging
Yeah.
before?
Yeah. No, that's a great question. So artifact is anything that obstructs or can be disguised as something else. When you're looking at an image, let's say a chest X-ray, there's also something called an MRI, magnetic resonance imaging, a CT. Um, so there's different types of images in medical imaging, and anything that kind of just kind of makes is disguised as something else, just obstructs something. Like if you have like a hairpin maybe, or you can have like something like a button on your shirt when you're taking a image, and it can show up as or it just shows up on the image, and as someone who's viewing the image and analyzing the image will see it, they have to like know that that's not supposed to be there. They have to know what the normal looks like and know what the we call it pathology, which is this disease or anything leading to disease looks like. So an artifact is just anything that can be mistaken as something that leads to disease. And then I'm sorry.
No, no, I was like, got it, got it.
And then in regards to the research, so I worked with a radiologist, and he trained in Canada, and he trained in the University of Toronto. And the population he trained on didn't necessarily wear a lot of braids, twists, locks, and so he wasn't super familiar with how they present in imaging. And when he came to Philadelphia, North Philadelphia in particular, that population, mainly Black patients, brown patients, um, they have, we wear a lot of braids with locks. And so he started seeing a lot more of that in imaging, but wasn't able to understand because there's definitely like common things that could pop up as artifact. Like even if you're taking a picture as a radiology technician, you can't really like move out the way just because of how it's on the body. And so there are things that like radiologists are trained to recognize patterns, to recognize and just like pattern recognition is their like way to go. And so for him, since he didn't have like an algorithm in his head of how to like decipher what that was, it provided confusion. And when he went into like the radiology books, there's huge test books with all these different patterns and algorithms. There wasn't anything about it. I think there when I did my research, and I think when he did his too, we found the same thing. We just did research at different times. There was like a case study that was actually published in the New England Journal of Medicine, like back in the 80s, and then there was like some case studies in like in dentistry that kind of look at how hair is or how hair comes up as artifact, but nothing really to like describe it to any detail other than like this is a thing that can happen. Um, and so when he realized that almost a lot of his patients, had this hair. Actually, sorry, let me back up. He did a fellowship in reconstruction of imaging. So he has this like there's a software that you can reconstruct different images in the medical field, and he was able to reconstruct the images that he wasn't sure what it was, and he saw that those images had like different hairstyles. And when he was looking at those hairstyles, his secretary was like, "Oh yeah, those are braids, those are twists." Like she was able to tell him what it was. So he just needed a student that had familiarity in this landscape of just different hairstyles and of predominantly the Black communities, but a lot of different communities where these type of styles. And then a student that also is interested in radiology and is able to like combine the two together.
That's so cool. How do you think, well, when I was doing the research on like your research, it said that like 3% of radiologists are Black and the rest are like maybe like other ethnicities. How have you like built diversity and equity through research, and how do you wish to do that in the future?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I approach this research as a awareness research, like predominantly because I myself am a medical student. I'm a third year medical student, and at this point, we're just getting experience in all the different types of specialties. So I've had, the experience that I've had in radiology is the experience that I put myself in, but I am by no means a radiologist. I'm not trained in that. So I can't say that, I can't say that I am bringing in all this education because it's like I have so much education to learn myself. And fingers crossed I'll be a radiologist next year around no in 2 years around this time. But yeah, so what I can do right now, from what I know, is okay. I know hair. I can learn how hair presents in imaging, and then I can go and show other people how hair presents it, and I can like bring this knowledge and make it a study, which we did, and put it in the literature because that increases awareness. Or it can be like written about in a news article, or we can talk about it in a news setting and bring awareness to a larger population. And so it's right now it's mainly awareness and like um, seeing where this concept of hair and imaging and how it obstructs certain views and maybe it could be masked as certain diseases, how it pops up, and then how doctors interact with that. So right now, just the blanket, we're trying to bring it through just bringing awareness because we think that's the first step. It's just like you can't like understand a problem if you're not aware of the problem.
Right, definitely. Awareness is like for everything too. Like even with my DEI like stuff, it's awareness first.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Can you tell us more about your first startup, the InnoHealth Diagnostics, and why you founded it?
Oh my God. Yeah, that was like my first baby. You said she's the president or she's the CEO. I'm like, oh, not anymore. So that was like, so going back to when I was telling you about the Florida State, my Florida State experience and like finding someone in the medical school who was a physician but an entrepreneur. So his name was Dr. Rodriguez. Um, I'm trying to make this not long-winded. So pretty much he's a part of the school of entrepreneurship, but he's in the medical school. So they have like a kind of like a liaison representative in each school, like School of Engineering, School of Pharmacy, like this bunch of different schools. They have an entrepreneurship representative because entrepreneurship can be in every single aspect of business, of like medicine as well. So he was the one who kind of like pushed me, like he's like, oh, you're taking these classes both in medicine, both in entrepreneurship, and you are interested in doing something in Nigeria in the future. Why not just do it now? And so I was like, oh, I can do that right now. And he like kind of like opened my eyes to like, oh yeah, there's resources for students to like start student businesses. And student businesses are just, you can see it's like pretty much you have a research idea and you build a business around it. So you understand the market you understand the market, you understand the users, you understand the buyers, and you understand the impact that can make. And so when he like kind of exposed me to like the business world of it and how you can combine medicine and business and actually make it a viable thing, I was like, wow, like this is insane. And so that kind of sprung me to start that company. And I had a friend who was also Nigerian, also big on public health. And together we kind of just like went into like the research of it, looking at like uh, the top five causes of mortality, top five causes of why people die in Nigeria. And we looked at the life expectancies, compared it to the US. Like the Nigeria life expectancy at the time was, I want to say 60. And in the US, it's 79 or like 78. So it was like that, like just a huge difference. And we are like, well, why is that? And, we had our assumptions, but we did the research and we're like, okay, so what's something that we can like tackle, as students right now with the resources that we have, and something that was doable to us was infectious diseases. We looked at the type of infectious diseases. We saw neglected tropical diseases was a huge cause. Then we looked at the types of neglected tropical diseases, and then we saw like the number one or number two under malaria was schistosomiasis. And so then we just did a deep dive into that.
Got you. What are some challenges that you faced along the way creating the startup?
Oh, so many challenges. Like where do you start? Like being students and trying to start a business is just like not the easiest thing to do, especially because like none of your classes like, we're both pre-med and none of our classes are like supporting us doing that.
Yeah.
Um, Luckily the resources at the other school was helping us like, with they had like pitches and like classes to like make a pitch. So we were getting supported through that. But I mean, we just found challenges throughout. Like, I mean, outside of just being a student and trying to start a business, that was just really tasking. Also, like the actual equipment of what we were trying to do. We were trying to use like PCR, which is polymerase reaction chain. It's like you like have like a sample, you heat it up, and then you like make a bunch of copies of it, and then you like find something in the sample. It was super hard to make. Like we made it in the lab and then trying to like take it from the lab to the field. So we went to Nigeria and like try to make it work. And it's just like the conditions are completely different. We're just trying to like, you know, use our knowledge as like students to make it happen. And people like in the industry of like years in industry are like also trying to make it happen too. So, it was just daunting in that sense because we're like, we have all these different like responsibilities and we're trying to like, make something work and we're putting a lot of resources into it because we were like also pitching it in different like competitions as you said earlier. So we were like winning and we're like getting like money and like connections, and so there's a lot of pressure to make it work too because it's like okay, we're like we see the impact it can have and we want to make this happen, and just so many things like it was not like trying to make it happen, so it was just a lot going on at once. But it was a great learning experience, and it was like really, yeah, it was just like really like impactful into like what we can do as students, like what you can do as a student, with like a certain level of support, and then, yeah, so yeah, just a lot of challenges. Like, sorry if that was like very unspecific, but like that was an interesting time.
No, that's crazy. Still like thinking about like what you're doing with your work, like even in like college is like really inspiring to me because I feel like I can do more than what I'm doing right now always.
So you're doing a great amount right now. So you're just gonna go up from there.
Thank you. Then you became like the president of like Apex, right? Like aspiring physician executives. Can you like tell us more about what you're currently working on and its mission?
Yeah, so Apex, Aspiring Physician Executives, it's a organization where students, medical students in particular, are able to go in and see the vast amount of opportunities they have as a future physician. So earlier in this conversation, I was talking about like certain people who like opened my eyes up to, oh, physicians aren't just 9 to 5 workers or, go in, go out, work at the bedside, work with one patient, one after the other, do what they can and leave. Like doing that for 30 years this seems so exhausting in my head when I thought about it. And like we see it like in practice, people are getting we burnt out is it's a term that's like, has all the rage now. And it's like this is just people being accustomed to being tired and not being able to treat fully the patient because there's so many different factors that go into patient care that's outside of actually like the one-on-one physician patient relationship. And that's just something that we can't control as future physicians because we don't have, I say we, I'm not a physician, but physicians can't control because they don't have the like I mean bandwidth to a certain extent, but like the knowledge in different industries and sectors, because there's like 10 to like 15 different sectors in healthcare. It's like pharma, insurance, uh, financial tech, medical tech. Like there's so many different industries that impact the patient, but we're only trained on the clinical aspect. And so Apex is an organization that is vouching for physicians, current physicians and future physicians in particular should be trained in multiple aspects of healthcare. And so we learn so much in medical school. I just had a test yesterday and my brain is fried. And so it's like to put something else on just seems kind of daunting, but we try to make it fun where it's like, hey, we can network, we can like learn about all these physicians doing different things in their clinical career. Aside from at the bedside, they're working on a populational skill. And they're having a lot of fun and they're making a big impact. So like we're exposing students, right? We talked about the first step being awareness. We're exposing students and then we're showing them, okay, this is like how they got it done. And maybe this is where you can get it done if you're interested in this aspect. So yeah, it's just mainly exposure, a bit of education, and networking because my friends will tell you Angela's a networker because I'm just so big on like who can get you into, you're just like one person away for who you need to know to get like the next resource or to get to the next step. So it's like being authentic and like leading with like purpose, I think kind of attracts like authentic people in your network that can help you make an impact. So I think that's really really big thing to instill in people. So that's kind of how Apex was born. Keenan Philly has like 6 medical schools all around each other, but like not really a lot of collaboration from what we were seeing. So we just started an organization between all the schools. All the like students from all schools are in this organization, and we're just growing from like day by day from there.
How do you think Apex can represent like our new generation as it's like more, as you explained it, like a more student run or like led organization that's teaching more like younger medical students?
So how Apex can like
Like
run.
how it can represent our new generation. Like,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. So it's actually funny. I was talking to someone. He's an older gentleman, and he was like he's in this big organization that like does accreditation for a lot of residency trainings. Like after med school, you go to residency and just do trainings there. So and I was telling him about like Apex and like the ideas that I had, and he's just like, "Wow, your generation is just you're so pumped up to do things," and I'm like, "Yeah, I guess." And so I think it's just a matter of like if we're seeing I think our like my generation and then your generation, I think even more, um we don't really like stick with the status quo if we don't think it's working. Like we don't like it's like this is how it is, so it's just how it's going to be. It's like I don't think that's like I don't think we have to agree with that. And so I think that we're going to be seeing a lot of that in the next generation of just workers in general. But like if we're talking about physicians, like we're going to see a lot of like physicians being hybrids, like working in clinical care, but also like having knowledge in other aspects. So they're able to like have a conversation with like a business executive or a pharma person or insurance person, and they're able to talk their language and like kind of find like the middle ground and kind of like work with each other so we can actually like provide better patient care and actually have um, a better environment for staff, so like people who work in a hospital. So I think it's a bright future. I think if we kind of avoid being exhausted and kind of keep our our zeal and our passion, I think it's got a pretty bright future for mine and your generation.
Yeah, definitely. Um, Shifting more to like, I know you're like more med, but like, is like med like affected by like AI? So like, um, I was gonna ask if you feel like AI can solve like any gaps between healthcare for those like underserved or marginalized communities.
100%. I think it can solve it, but I also think it can like widen the gaps too. So I think we
Right.
have to be really careful about like AI right now, like it's been around for many years. But I think now it's becoming more and more accessible to like anyone, like with Chat GPT, with like different like websites that are building. I mean, to be in high school around this time, I would have been killing. I would have been like essays on essays on essays. I
For
would have
sure.
been
It's ChatGPT is a main part of our lives.
yeah, no, honestly, but yeah, like I think that going back to medicine and especially in radiology, AI has been a thing. Like pattern recognition, like I said, AI can do that pretty fast. And so it leaves like room for a physician, a doctor to get the diagnosis, to treat the patient quicker, to take on more cases, which can be bad or good or bad. Um, but I also think that with that, we have a responsibility to make sure that we're inclusive to all different types of patients with AI. Because if we're just training models on a certain population, then we're going to miss out on all these other nuances that come with patients that look different, that have a different background, because then that affects how their body is, and can lead to like just errors in AI, or just like just it would just widen like the inequities that are already existing in healthcare. So I think as we're building these models and we're building like these databases for AI, we have to just be really inclusive and really like vigilant on that. And there are people out there that are doing that, and then that are like actually focused on like diversity in AI. So yeah, so it's also bright there too, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think a big part, because you just answered my next question. Because I think a big part was like I was gonna ask how it relates to DEI, because like all the databases, the data you feed AI kind of leads into like the stereotypes and what it generates, and like how marginalized communities might become more marginalized.
Yes, 100%, 100%. It's just like you're just feeding it more like, I mean, I don't want to say bad data, but you're feeding it more data that's bad for certain groups,
Certain group,
like
yeah.
leaving out groups, and so you're creating a bigger problem. And it's like, why would you exasperate that problem already? So it's just, you have to be really conscious.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all I have for today.
Okay.
Thank you so much for being here though. This
Yeah.
discussion is actually like really inspiring and incredible.